It's time. Time to beat the entirety of Legends of Kingdom Rush on normal difficulty without suffering any HP damage, which is what I like to call a flawless run. I believe that the rules are pretty self-explanatory, though there are a couple of little niche things that are going to come up as we go along here, and so I'll mention them as they crop up. However, I strongly suggest that you watch the entirety of this video despite how long it is, because I think that there are interesting things showing up at every single point, and on top of that, I also think that the urgency of the situation, the threat of all of the enemies, is only apparent when you can see all of the situations that I end up getting myself into. So, to explain the party that I've chosen here, I've got Azra, the Ranger, and the Knight. For Krumpex Dominion, having armor is really helpful here, because there are enemies that are pretty hard to avoid. For when you've got all these goblins that have 4 speed, which does make them a pretty significant threat when you have the possibility of taking HP damage. And so you want something that has armor that can tank all the attacks for you. Also, let me just point out right there that the Knight just blocked a bunch of attacks in a row, so she's already proving to be a Giga Woman. Right here, I pretty much have the combat encounter secured. The enemies right here, they either survive or they don't. They end up surviving because the Knight does her minimum amount of damage, but then she blocks him again just to continue flexing on him. So, even though RNG wasn't on my side for her damage output, it was on my side for her blocking skill. And that to me is a little bit more handy, at least in situations like this. Unfortunately, I can't do anything with the mushrooms there on this encounter. Here I have the opportunity to either use the Knight or use a rope, and I'm going to use the rope here because that's what items like that are for. I'm also going to go to this node down here because this allows me to get more XP overall, and that's what I want. I'm not doing anything else on top of this challenge, like only using 3 companions or only having level 1 companions. Although, after all the things that I've been through, I know for sure that that is not possible unless I do something really crazy, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. This alone is already enough of a chaotic challenge here. So the first ally unit that I get for this adventure is the Dark Knight, and I really couldn't ask for a better companion to get in Krumpex Dominion, because like I was saying, there's a lot of enemies that deal physical damage that are hard to avoid, so you want a wall of armor that can block the attacks for you, and you couldn't really pick a better option than the Knight or the Dark Knight, since those guys both have the best armor and the best armor regeneration. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just pick off all of these goblins here, since this allows me to just get them out of the way, and then I can worry about the other enemies. So this Orc Archer here has an effective range of 6. He can move 2 hexes and then shoot from 4 hexes away. The Ranger has an effective range of 7 because he can move 2 hexes and can shoot from 5 hexes away thanks to the fact that he's at level 2 now. And so I just keep him where he's at, so that way on his next turn I can use Poison Arrow to wipe out that Orc Archer, since that does 4 true damage, and that's just enough to completely wipe him out. Oh, my bad. It does 5 true damage because, like I said, he's at level 2. So he's just even stronger than I need him to be. Now I can just burst down this Orc here. There really isn't anything else for me to worry about. He's bleeding thanks to the Dark Knight, which means that he's going to take extra damage from the epic effect of the Knight's basic skill, and so he's guaranteed to be killed. Even if she didn't have an epic effect, she would have done 2 minimum damage, leaving him at 1 HP, and since he's bleeding, he would have just died outright from there. Also, you might have noticed that I leveled up the Ranger and picked the Verdant Defender. Now for a no HP damage run, that might seem like a nearly useless idea, since the Verdant Defender doesn't have any armor, and it's a melee unit, so it's pretty much always going to be in danger if you're getting any use out of it. However, as you'll see at the end of this adventure, you can actually get away with letting summoned units take HP damage and still count as a flawless encounter. You see, at the end of any one adventure, you actually have a list of little stats at the bottom of the screen. I usually don't pay too much attention to those, but it will show things like the amount of experience points that you've gathered up throughout the adventure, the number of epic effects that you've triggered, number of enemies killed, number of combat encounters survived, which basically just means the number of combat encounters encountered, since unless you actually die to one of the combat encounters, you should survive every single one of them that you get. And you also have the number of flawless encounters. Now, flawless encounters are combat encounters that you go through without suffering any HP damage. And you'll see at the end of this that the number of combat encounters encountered is exactly equal to the number of combat encounters that have gotten flawlesses on, even though, as you just saw a little bit earlier, the Verdant Defender got hit by an arrow and died, taking HP damage in the process. So that to me shows me that the game allows that sort of thing. And I think that that should be allowed anyways, even if the game itself didn't count that, which I'm glad that it does count it. But even if it didn't count it, I would personally count it, since otherwise it would just lock off a skill from certain characters to be useful here. The thing is, with a challenge like this, certain units are going to be locked out of their usefulness. For example, the Barbarian and the Sasquatch, those are pretty much pure melee units, although the Sasquatch does have some range attacks. And they have no armor unless you use the Fortified bonus, but still, they get 2 armor out of that, which just isn't enough to reliably tank any attacks in the game, really. And on top of that, since they're melee units, they're going to be in danger pretty often, and you pretty much want something that can block the attacks from enemies, because like I was saying, there's so many of these enemies, and they're just too hard to avoid. 6 effective range on the Orc Archer, 4 effective range on the Goblin, it's just too much. So, you really want armored units to deal with all this stuff, and in my opinion, it's just not worth it to try to get the Barbarian or anybody else to work. You just want armored units and ranged units, and so that's what I'm using here. Luckily, I'm going to be able to take out this Orc Archer here. He would have prioritized attacking the Dark Knight. If you don't know, the AI has a couple of little priorities. For one, it will prioritize attacking the unit that's closest to it. So the Dark Knight was only 1 hex away from the Orc Archer. Meanwhile, Azra was, I believe, 3 hexes away from the Orc Archer, and the other units were even further away. So even though the Orc Archer would have been in range to attack other units, it would have prioritized the Dark Knight because he was closest. And the same is true for any other type of enemy, not just ranged, but melee as well. Also, let me just interrupt myself here to point out that you come to the Dark Army checkpoint, and you can pass it right away thanks to Azra, and also thanks to the Dark Knight. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so units will prioritize attacking your units when they're closest to them. Ranged, melee, whatever. The rule is always the same. Now, when units are equidistant, meaning that they're the same amount of hexes away from the enemy, they have a couple of priorities that they'll go through. For one, they will see if they can finish off a unit. And so, if you have Azra and the Arcane Wizard both equally close to a unit, but the Arcane Wizard is at 1 HP, then that enemy is going to attack the Arcane Wizard no matter what, because they're pretty confident that they can kill him. However, normally, let's say that the enemy is not going to be able to kill any of the units, they will prioritize them in this order. First, they do NPCs. I believe the reason for this is because there are achievements to keep NPCs alive, things like the Villager in Extradimensional Menace, or the Young Barbarians in, I was about to say Argylham, in Stormcloud's Winter. Those guys you have to keep alive for certain achievements, so enemies will prioritize killing them. And so that will be their first priority when they're equally far away. Then you have heroes, so Gerald, Azra, and the like. That will be their next priority. And then they will prioritize weak characters, so things like the Arcane Wizard, Witch Doctor, etc. I'm not exactly sure how they choose between those options, so if they're equally close to, say, the Sorceress and to the Ranger, I don't know if they will always pick either the Sorceress or always pick the Ranger, but it could be that they follow the HP rule. And so, like I was saying about a unit that they can finish off right away, it could be that they would prioritize attacking the unit who has the lowest HP, since they get them the closest to being killed. So I'll have to test that a little bit more. But I definitely have noticed that they will prioritize the quote-unquote fragile characters like the Witch Doctor far more than they will prioritize characters like, well, the Dark Knight or the Knight. One thing that I have seen is that they seem to prioritize attacking the Knight over the Dark Knight when they have the same effective HP, but the Knight has more just raw HP. And I believe the reason for that is because they know that spiked armor exists, and so that also means that they will probably avoid things like, say, the Orc Cleaver's counterattack skill. I don't know if this would also apply to skills like the Barbarian's Berserker Rage, because he can potentially get increased damage and healing whenever he gets attacked. There's just a 30% chance for that to trigger. However, it could also be that this is all coincidence, and I'm actually just drawing conclusions from nothing, so we'll see about that. Also here, I take kind of a risk because I allow the Dark Knight to get in dangerous range of this enemy here, and sure enough, he does his maximum possible damage, and so the Dark Knight has no more armor, which means that even if I use Fortify, he's going to have 4 armor total, and that means that he's still going to be in danger of suffering HP damage from these enemies next time around. So, all that really means is that I need to make sure that I wipe out this enemy here, so I shoot him with an arrow, finish him off, and so now I just need to take care of him with my other melee units. I'm going to stun him, because there's still the possibility that the Knight does 2 damage with her basic attack, and she does 2 damage with her shield, and so you can see right there that 2 plus 3 was not enough to be able to finish off the Orc, and so the Dark Knight would have been in danger of suffering HP damage, so I had to stun him there. So there we go, I get a Mysterious Potion. It's always a risk to use this, because there are so many possible effects you can get out of it. It can give you increased HP, it could give you decreased max HP, it could also, I believe, deal damage to you, it can heal you, I think it can also, oh yeah, it has incredible properties. That was one of the terms that they used, and that applies Invigorated and Luck, which I think is called Blessed in this game. But anyways, I end up not using it right there, because I just want to move on to the next combat encounter. And so in this situation here, I can immediately just get rid of one of these goblins by attacking him with the Dark Knight, and so that's what I do. I really like how they make the Dark Knight stand out from the Knight. You see, they both have the same attack damage, they both have 3 attack. However, the Knight's attack is used in different ways. It's used in different formulas. So her basic attack does attack -1 minimum, up to attack +1 maximum. So it deals between 2 and 4 damage. So you have a chance to deal less than 3, but also a chance to deal more than 3. Meanwhile, the Dark Knight always deals the same amount of damage. He always deals 3 with his basic attack, or whatever his attack stat is. And so you get more consistency there, but you also don't reach the same highs. So it's just whichever one you like more. Although, in my opinion, neither are that good for damage dealing until you really level them up. And even then, the Knight's not that good for damage dealing. And so, really, the Dark Knight's the one that can potentially deal more damage if you level him up. Especially if you take advantage of his spiked armor. So like I was just saying with him always dealing 3 damage, if you combine that with spiked armor, then this also means that he can deal an additional 1 true damage to enemies if they attack him. However, that of course requires tanking, so it comes at the cost of his armor. And personally, I like the block chance on the Knight a little bit better, because it just gives her an opportunity to survive a little bit more attacks, and you can adapt your strategy after the fact, which is really useful to me, because I don't like skills where you have to rely on being lucky in order to get them to work. For the Knight, you can still do all the math necessary to have enough armor to survive, but if she ends up blocking, that just means that you have a little bit more armor than you calculated for, and so that can always be helpful there. So in my opinion, I think it's a good thing to have. Between the two units, what I'm trying to imply is that I like the Knight a little bit better than the Dark Knight, since, well, for all of these reasons that I just explained. Let me not be redundant here. So here we go with the next combat encounter. Even though I was just singing the praises of all of my armored units, this is the area where things start to get tricky, because you see here we have 3 casters. These guys can deal magic damage, so if they hit somebody at all, that means that I'm going to take HP damage, and so I can't have that happen. I need to kill them before they get into range to attack. They also are healers, and so if one of my units ends up damaging an enemy, then they will prioritize healing that enemy instead. You see here, I can just snipe at this enemy, so that's what I'm going to end up doing. This guy's going to move up over here, and now what I really want to do is snipe him with the ranger, and luckily I can get close enough to actually do that, so that's what I'm going to do. I also don't have to worry about counting hexes with the ranger, because I know that with 3 movement and 5 actual range, he has an effective range of 8. And so he actually outranges pretty much every single enemy in the game. I can't think of any enemy that has 5 range. They all seem to have 4 at most. So yeah, you never really have to count any hexes if the ranger is at the maximum distance away to still hit an enemy. Although, of course, if he can't move again afterwards, then he is at risk, because 5 hexes away is less than the 6 effective range of an enemy that's allowed to move first and then attack. But luckily, he's still safe over here. So what I'm going to do is stun this enemy, so that way the knight can take a little bit more. Then I'm also going to attack him just to add on some extra damage. This guy's rooted, so I might as well take advantage of that and not let him get hit. Or not let any enemies get hit by him by getting too close. And now I have the opportunity to either poison that enemy or to finish off this guy. Or I can poison this guy, which is what I end up doing. Since even though it would be nice to use the poison to guarantee killing that orc archer, I deal 6 to 8 damage with Azra at level 3. And so I might as well just do that. I'm just going to move Azra into range so that way she can kill this orc archer. So now I have some options with the Dark Knight. I'm just going to do this, kill him right away. And then I can move Azra just down here, and then she's in range to attack the orc archer. So there we go, she did her maximum damage. And then I have enough to finish off this guy. And there we go, that's the end of that encounter. It's probably looking pretty easy right now. To be honest, I think that Krumpex Dominion is arguably the hardest out of all of the adventures, even though it's the first one, minus the tutorial. And that's because it punishes certain units really hard. Like I was saying about the Sasquatch earlier, he relies on his HP, and from what I've noticed, it's really easy to get overwhelmed here. Also, Boohoo, my ranger, got -1 armor. I don't expect to be taking any damage with him anyways. And even though I have 260 gold, which I earned by selling my tent, I actually don't have the means to purchase anything useful from the shop, because I don't need any healing or anything like that. So between these two options, I can either get Spike Reforge or Hold the Line. The other options I'm not really that big on, but the one that I end up deciding on is Hold the Line. And that's because this ability allows me to add armor onto my other units, and so they can afford to tank hits from enemies without suffering HP damage. And that's like the main idea of the challenge, and so what more could I hope for? Anyways, let's get ready for the boss. So the boss is somewhat difficult in the fact that I'm not allowed to take any damage from Krumpex lightning blasts. You see, he places lightning on these hexes, and it's going to blast on the ground and deal damage in a 1 hex AoE, dealing magic damage, which might as well be true damage, because it's going to deal HP damage to my units, bypassing their armor, and so I can't take that risk of getting hit by them. The only time that I'm free to use full actions is on the very first turn here. And the reason for that is because there's no lightning on the ground right now, so I'm free to just go and attack everybody that I want. Luckily, I'm able to go and snipe out some of these enemies right away, because I can use the Knight's Hold the Line ability to add armor to all of my units. So what this means is that all of my units have bonus armor, allowing them to tank attacks from these orc archers here. So you see he's going to attack Azra, and she's going to be able to withstand the damage just fine. It only did 1 damage, so it didn't actually matter that Hold the Line was active, but just in case, you know, it could have done 3 damage. That's the maximum damage that the orc archer can deal, and so that could have bypassed her armor. So this is just a way to be better safe than sorry. So the good thing about this ability is that it applies knockback, allowing the Dark Knight to push this orc here into range of getting killed by the lightning. It's going to deal 3 damage to the edges, and a total of, or well, not a total, but it's just going to deal 5 damage to anybody that's in the middle. So you see that heavily armored orc is going to take 5 damage, whereas the other orc takes 3 damage. So let's wait for that lightning to come over. There we go. So yeah, that orc is still alive, but he has bleed active, and so as soon as he takes an action, it kills him. And there we go, he's defeated. And now this orc archer here is basically doomed right away. So I'm going to poison this guy, just so that way I guarantee that he's going to be killed on the next turn because the poison tick is going to activate and then finish him off. Since that's going to deal another 1 true damage, they can just easily kill that other orc there, that archer, using the Dark Knight. Unfortunately, Shiv is not strong enough to finish off this guy, and I can't use Azra's multi-hit ability because that will prevent her from moving, and so she's going to be in range of the lightning, and I can't have that. So instead, I'm going to have to just move her out of the way and then shoot that guy. I'm going to just attack him with the shield here and apply the epic effect. Doesn't really matter, but the point is that it prevents him from attacking, and so I won't be taking HP damage with the knight. So that's good. And this guy is going to die on his next turn, so that's good. That guy died right there because of the poison. Luckily, the ranger is out of position to get killed by, or to get hit by any of the lightning. And so I'm free to use another full action, so I'm just going to take the opportunity to summon the Verdant Defender right away. And here we go, I'm just going to leave the Dark Knight where he is. Now Azra, I can either, attack with her or keep her in place and then get the Keen Focus upgrade. I should have just attacked with the Orc though, because had I done that, then I wouldn't have to wait for the next turn for Krumpex to spawn. You see here, this Orc is just going to kill the dog, and so there's nothing that I can do to finish him off except use another ability to kill him. And you see the ranger's out of position. So is the Dark Knight. So is the Knight herself. And so there's not really any good position for me to be in. And so I should have just killed him with Azra right then and there, because everyone's in the middle. Everyone's in a good position to actually, hit Krumpex no matter where he spawns next. But no, for some reason I didn't do that. I'm constantly beating myself up about it, because now I'm going to have another turn where I have to wait for Krumpex to spawn. And you see, there's lightning in all of these places. And so this means that I have to move all of my units into worse positions where they're not in a good spot to hit Krumpex. And so, sure enough, because either the AI or either the game knows that there's a certain spot where I'm not going to be able to hit Krumpex with most of my units, and it places him there on purpose, or I'm just extremely unlucky, and every single time that I'm in a position where he could be out of reach, he always goes to that spot. So I don't know if the game knows, or I'm just lucky 100% of the time with this. I'm very willing to believe that I am that unlucky, because that's always been the case with everything else. Any multiple choice on a test in school, I will always get it wrong if I have to guess. I have to actually know it in order to get it. But anyways, here we are with Krumpex. I can't afford to try to burst him down with damage, and so I'm just going to have to take the hit to my potential damage at spawn killing him and just kill this guy. And so I'm going to move the Dark Knight down, and I'm going to hit him with this ability. You see though, this does 5 damage here, and Azra, she can add on another 8 to 10 damage by attacking him. And so in total, he's not going to be left with that much leftover HP. So theoretically, the ranger could have finished him off, but I just didn't want to take that risk. So there we go, that guy's going to get hit. Now Krumpex is going to bleed when he activates his next blast of lightning. And we have to wait for all 5 of these lightning blasts to go through. All the bosses have really long animations for all the things that they do. But yeah, he's going to teleport to one of the other 2 hexes. Luckily, he's in a good position here, and so I can just finish him off. I actually have a good position to use Ricochet Arrow if I wanted to, but I'm not going to, because who cares really? And plus, I want to stay in a good position to not take damage, even if I know that I'm going to finish him off, just to be extra safe, because you can never be too safe. So there we go, let me hit him with Shiv, and there we go, overkill. So that was Krumpex Dominion. This adventure was not so bad for getting through it without taking any HP damage. There's nothing that I had to restart the run for. I just managed to get through it perfectly on the first try. And you're going to see here when I get to the victory screen that it'll have a certain number of combat encounters that I've survived, 7, and then I also have 7 flawless encounters. So that's proof that I was able to go through every single combat encounter and not take any HP damage. And that includes the Verdant Defender Wolf Ant that I summoned. So that's allowed to take HP damage without counting against me. So that's good. Anyways though, let's skip ahead to Stormcloud's Winter. So for this, I'm going to be using a different party. This time, I'm going to be bringing in Gerald Lightseeker, the Orc Cleaver, and the Arcane Wizard. So let's scan the map here. I can see that there's a Winter Wolf encounter on the right side, and so I don't really want to go that way, even though I do like going to the tent right before the boss, because I have a good chance of getting invigorated by going there. Also, I see that there's all these troll encounters like in a row here, and so I definitely want to go that way. I'm also going to go to the left when I get the chance to, because that's just more troll encounters, and I want to avoid any and all Winter Wolf ones. So I'm just going to keep the Orc Cleaver here, so that way he can tank and hit, and then counterattack this guy. So now he's in a prime position to get finished off, and so as tempting as it is to just kill him right then and there using you know, the Arcane Wizard, because he does 4 damage exactly. Instead, I'm just going to come over here and attack him with Gerald. So that was a little bit of gambling. He does 3 to 5 damage with his basic attack, and so that could have resulted in the troll living with 1 HP remaining. But luckily that's not what happened. So you see here, there's 3 spaces that I can move to, and if I go there, I'm going to be in range of getting hit by the Winter Wolf. So let me move back with the Arcane Wizard and finish off this Winter Wolf. And now I need to be ready to tank an attack from the other Winter Wolf here. So he does true damage of his attack. So what I need to do is put the Shield of Retribution on the Orc Cleaver, so that way the Winter Wolf can come up, attack him, and then not be able to deal the true damage. Instead, it's just going to get the damage sent back to it. And there we go. Now I was able to get away with not getting hit. So let me just finish it off with the Arcane Wizard right then and there. Now, Gerald Lightseeker, he's got his 5 armor back, and so I can tank any hit that I want. So I'm just going to finish off that guy, putting myself in danger of getting hit by this guy, but it doesn't matter. So he's going to take that hit, and then the Orc Cleaver can come and finish him off. There we go. Kind of interesting to note, too, that the Orc Cleaver there was able to, you know, deal more damage than Gerald Lightseeker. He's not necessarily a glass cannon, but because he has a low amount of armor, he's definitely more prone to getting hurt and dying outright, because he's focused so much of his stats into damage instead. So here we go with this combat encounter. This is another thing that I didn't learn until way later than I should have, but combat encounters always give you the same reward every time, like I was saying before. And so, just like how you can always get that healing potion whenever you encounter the Dark Army checkpoint, you can always get a boost to your attack damage whenever you do this combat encounter. And something that I learned from Unbalanced, who's probably the best player of this game, was that you can guarantee getting this one by going to an ambush specifically. Like, what he was saying is that you can come up to an ambush that has a troll on it, and then you will get to this combat encounter. I don't exactly remember how he put it, but the wording made it seem like you can guarantee getting this combat encounter if you go to an ambush, my bad. And so, it seems to me like the best thing to do is always prioritize going to a troll ambush, so that way you can get that attack boost to one of your units. Of course, the unit who gets it is selected at random, and some are better to get it than others. Like in this case, I would feel like Gerald's the worst one to get it for, because the Arcane Wizard, when he gets to level 3, does 7 damage, and so if he gets an attack boost, he can do 8 damage and one-shot a troll right away. So that to me is really nice. But the Orc Cleaver, alternatively, he does all those counterattacks, and so getting a boost to his damage is huge, because since he attacks so many times in a single turn, depending on the amount of units that he's counterattacking, that 1 damage boost is going to come into play more than 1 time if he's counterattacking more than once. And so in the end, it's going to add up to a lot more. But anyways, let me move the Orc Cleaver here. If you don't know, what I'm doing with the Orc Cleaver is having him tail Gerald Lightseeker, so that way he gets the Aura of Soul bonus. The Aura of Soul causes a damage reduction of 1 point for any units that are adjacent to him. So what this means is that when they receive physical damage, they take one less damage than they otherwise would have. So if a troll comes up and its attack damage is 3, and it can deal 2 to 4 damage, then what's going to happen is whatever number it gets, let's say that it gets the luckiest number, and so it deals 4 damage, it's going to send that attack at the Orc Cleaver who's adjacent to Gerald, and then he's going to take only 3 damage from it, so it's going to be reduced. Of course, like I said, this does not apply to non-physical damage, and so it's not really going to matter, but at the same time, the fact that it doesn't matter against magic attacks also doesn't matter, and that's because we're not going to be tanking non-physical damage anyways. So it's safe for me, or it's fine for me to not be able to get that benefit against those types of attacks because I'm going to lose HP anyways. So this is one case where I don't want the Orc Cleaver to be tailing Gerald, and the reason for that is because he's going to take area damage when this Troll Breaker attacks, and I don't want that. So instead, I'm going to have him just attack him from this side over here. That way he doesn't get hit by the Troll Breaker. Now, the Footman can come over here and finish off the Troll because he's been pushed. And there we go. That's the end of that. So now I'm going to have all of these Footmen chase after the Troll Breaker. You see they have not taken any HP damage themselves, which is nice. And as tempting as it is to have the Troll Breaker take an attack from Gerald, instead what I'm going to do is move Gerald back. So he's going to be in this position against the edge of the map here. And so when knockback applies to him, he's not going to have anywhere to be pushed back to. And so he's going to stay in the same position. This is important because when I move the Orc Cleaver here, you see he's going to be in range of, well, he's positioned such that when the Troll Breaker attacks him and the knockback applies, he's going to get knocked into Gerald. But none of them can move. And so he's just going to stay in position, and then he's going to get to counterattack the troll. So that's nice. That's going to allow me to do more damage to him. And this is going to buy me enough time to attack him with more of my units, and so I can finish him off. The thing is, I could have just finished him off right away anyways, like if I just kept on bombarding him with attacks. But I really wanted to showcase that technique, so that way you can bypass the one weakness of the Orc Cleaver, which is the fact that knockback can mess up his counterattacks. I call that the one weakness because ideally, you should be able to take care of the fact that ranged units are also his weakness by using other companions. But if you're relying on the Orc Cleaver for, dealing most of your melee physical damage, then it's a weakness when he's still not able to deal melee physical damage to enemies that you otherwise should be able to. So in this case here, I'm going to apply the Shield of Retribution buff to the Orc Cleaver, so that way he can tank an attack from the Winter Wolf here. This is crucial. Also, let me point out that his ability, now that he's at level 2, does 8 physical damage. And so he's actually able to one-shot a single troll just by attacking it with that skill. And that's really helpful, especially at level 2. So I consider the Orc Cleaver to be like the best companion for this adventure. At least when you have his good skills unlocked. Let me point out right there that even though he got hit by, an attack, he did not counterattack. I guess that's because of the fact that Shield of Retribution was active, and so it didn't really count as an attack on him. It was just an attack on the shield, but still. I would have liked it if he was able to, counterattack that, because then I would have finished that enemy off. But anyways, you see here, he's taking 0 damage from the trolls, even though they deal 2 to 4 damage minimum. Oh, he just did it again as well. So that's because Aura of Soul stacks with Parry Stance. Parry Stance adds another layer of damage reduction, and it applies to all forms of damage, not just physical. And so he's actually able to take 2 less damage from physical attacks total, which makes him a beast. You see there, he just dealt so much damage, and he's at full armor at the moment and full HP, because he gets that armor regeneration as well. So the very little amount of damage that he actually took, it's completely healed now because of his regen. And on top of that, he dealt a huge amount of damage to all the enemies back, such that we could finish them off in the following turn because they were all softened up. In total, he dealt more damage than even the Arcane Wizard's Disintegrate. More damage than most... Well, actually, I was going to say the most insta-kill type attacks, but Disintegrate is one of those insta-kill type attacks. The other one that I was thinking of was Bruxa's abilities, because she has a couple of attacks that are basically insta-kills because of how much damage they deal. But yeah, this combo here is what I picked this party for. So he took 2 damage, which meant that the troll dealt his max damage of 4. So that's how strong that attack was that was dealt to him. And now it's only at half efficiency. So this combo is the best source of dealing a huge amount of damage, and it's the reason why I consider the Orc Cleaver to be the best companion for getting that specific achievement in this adventure, actually, Stormcloud's Winter, where you can beat this specific Argylham troll encounter without taking, or not without taking damage, but without your units. Hold on, how do I want to put this? Well, you should know what late to the party is. You can beat it before the sorcerer shows up, which is after 4 turns, I believe, or 4 rounds. And so, because he deals so much damage so quickly, this is the best way to get that achievement, is by using a strong Giga Chad like him. Now check this out. The Troll Chieftain here is going to summon these ice spikes, and they deal 2 damage, 2 physical damage, and it deals 0 damage to the orc. And that's because, he's got that layer of 2 damage reductions on him. And so what was supposed to deal 4 damage ended up dealing 0 damage, because, when a damage reduction applies to each attack, multi-hit attacks are extra powerful there. And so that damage reduction from Gerald applied twice over because he got hit twice. So that's just going to show how powerful the Orc Cleaver is. Now he has 0 armor, so he would take HP damage if he got hit by that troll there, or the Troll Chieftain. However, Gerald is the one that they like to prioritize, and I also got lucky here because instead of actually attacking Gerald, this troll here just decided that he wanted to bang his drum in front of all of the enemies. He just came up into Gerald's face and then banged his drum, like he was trying to break his eardrums or something. So there you go. This guy, he gets finished off immediately. Now, the Arcane Wizard, he's safe to attack this troll here because he's 2 hexes away from the troll. Meanwhile, the Orc Cleaver is 1 hex away from the troll, so the troll is going to come over here and then attack him. And yeah, he wasn't able to finish him off. And so there we go. That double layer of damage reduction is allowing the Orc Cleaver to tank all of these hits without suffering HP damage. So in a way, he's actually a better tank than the Knight if you're able to use this combo effectively. And since I am, he's able to tank all this damage. The Knight would be able to do it just as well, but she wouldn't be able to deal all the damage back to the enemies. And so that would buy you more, that would buy the enemy more time alive to keep on attacking and then eventually break through her armor. So the Orc Cleaver here, his strategy is to kill them before they can kill him. It's kill or be killed, jungle law. And so that's what we're doing here to survive. So you're pretty much guaranteed to get a level, to get a 4th companion before you get to Argylham. And so I'm expecting that I'm going to get my companion either on the way to this node or on the next node. And I get it on the way to this node. So here we go, I've got the Zapper. Now with the Zapper, we can move on ahead to fight this next troll encounter. And then unless I get ambushed on the way to Argylham, I'm going to have to fight that with this party. And so I'm going to have to hope that I get a good type of combat encounter here. So here we go, we've got these trolls here. If I use this AoE ability, it's going to stun the troll and then also apply burning by causing that pot to explode there. So that's what I want to do. I'm not going to attack this troll here with Gerald. Instead, I'm going to just rely on the Arcane Wizard to do all the attacking here. So here we go. I'm in a good position to attack either the pot or the troll. But instead what I'm going to do is use his magic missiles. And so they have a chance to spread to go and attack somebody else. They didn't. But, there's a chance that they could have blown up the pot and then applied burning to the troll. But to be honest, it's kind of a good thing that it didn't, because now I can move freely in this spot. So yeah, that troll there, he's not able to do anything because the Zapper kept him stunned and he was in the fire. And so I can just finish him off with this attack. So there we go, the Zapper just soloed that troll there by being him. So I'm going to keep Gerald where he is. And then I'm going to move the Orc Cleaver up so that way he can tank attacks from the troll here. Actually, Oh, never mind. What I end up doing is moving the troll over and then just finishing off, or moving the orc over and then finishing off the troll. Sorry, when I'm dealing with all of these guys that are just, they're just enemies, it ends up confusing my brain a little bit. So we've got the orc, we've got trolls. They're all Kingdom Rush 1 enemies. So I'm just gonna have Gerald tank attacks on behalf of these enemies here. Now the thing is, he will regenerate 2 armor on his next turn, and I can't afford to have that happen because the Troll Chieftain, he deals 3 to 5 damage, and so there's a chance that he would actually be able to pierce through Gerald's armor and then deal HP damage to him. And so I'm just going to use the Arcane Wizard's Frostlance ability. I also got the 20% chance for his ability to instantly recharge, and so I could keep on freezing. But I'm not going to do that. I just need to keep the enemy frozen for this 1 turn, so that way I can keep on tanking him. So there we go. Now we have Gerald's armor back. What I'm going to do is just buff up the Orc Cleaver here, and then put him right in front of the Troll Chieftain's face. I kind of missed an opportunity here to form a conga line, because I could have had all my units just in a horizontal position there, all fighting the Troll Chieftain. The reason that works is because the Arcane Wizard has a range of 3, the Zapper has a range of 4, and, the other 2 guys are melee units, but Gerald Lightseeker, he's not supposed to be adjacent to the enemy, because we need the Orc Cleaver tanking the hits to counterattack, and so it would have worked out perfectly to make a conga line there. So, next time I get that opportunity, I'm definitely going to form a conga line just for the fun of it. So there we get a Roadside Quarrel. Doesn't really matter because we don't get unlucky with it, and we don't get enough experience points to level up with it, unfortunately. But we get this combat encounter. A group of Yetis is attacking. So, in my opinion, the Yetis are like the nastiest enemy in the game. I did a top 10 most annoying enemies in Legends of Kingdom Rush with the War Champion, and I rated these guys as the worst, although on further inspection, I actually think that the Troll Chieftain is the worst enemy. For one, it's annoying to try to remember his name. For some reason, I keep on wanting to say champion, because for some reason a champion, it just sounds more important than a chieftain. Not sure why, but it just makes me want to call him that instead of the chieftain, because he, to me, is like the most important enemy whenever he's there. So let me buff up the Orc Cleaver so that we can take attacks. This is a good opportunity to show off Chain Lightning. If I zap an enemy, like if I zap the Yeti that's in the middle here, the chain is going to go in both directions. It's going to go above him and below him. And so it's going to hit the Yeti down below and blow up the TNT barrel there. So that's a little fun fact. I have a feeling that not that many people knew that that's how that worked. So I'm in a position where I can get hit by the Yeti if I don't move the Arcane Wizard up. So I need to move him up and then use magic missiles to snipe him. It's really nice that that ability allows you to do that. So now I have the opportunity to attack this guy. What I should have done is moved the Orc Cleaver down so that way he's adjacent to the well. So that way he can take attacks from him. And that's what I end up doing. I don't know why I said should. But yeah, he's over here so he can take attacks. And now I'm going to stun this guy. So this Yeti here is going to throw his Ice Ball, and it's going to deal collateral damage to that stunned Yeti here. And then I'm just going to come over here and then attack this guy. It finishes him off. And now I have the magic missiles recharged, because once again, that's the 20% chance for that to happen. And so what I'm going to do is move over here and just zap him, because I deal 6 damage, which is more than the damage that you deal with magic missiles, which is 3 to 6. So unless I got lucky, I would deal the same amount of damage as I could with his base attack. So why not use his base attack to guarantee that? So that's what I end up doing, and I beat the entire Yeti encounter without taking any damage. So there we go. Now I've got some gold, extra experience points, I can trade, and look at this. Armorer's Repair Kit. So you can buy these for 50 gold. If you come up to an armor smith, it costs an additional 50 gold for every layer of bonus armor you have for a unit. So if you, add extra armor to a unit by 1, that's just 50 gold. But then to add even more armor to him, it's another 100 gold for the second layer. And so this is a huge discount to get all 3 of these. And of course, I'm going to apply this to the Orc Cleaver, because he's the guy that's going to be tanking all this physical damage for us. And so, Now I'm going to move over to this troll encounter so that we can deal some more physical damage to the trolls. And look at this. I get -1 armor for the Orc Cleaver after all the gold that I just invested in upgrading his armor. Now some people might consider that a slap in the face. A finger in the grundle, if you will. And I do too. But at the same time, it actually makes it better that I was able to, that I was able to upgrade his armor. Because that means that now that I've lost his armor, I still have a net total of 2 more armor than I otherwise would have. So that's really nice. It means that the Orc Cleaver is still capable of tanking more attacks than he otherwise would be able to. Alternatively, what would have happened was he would have 1 less armor, because I was very tempted to not spend any gold on that extra armor, because instead I could have just saved up my gold to use it on something else. Something like, for example, the bonus damage that you can get from the weaponsmith at the very end of the combat, or at the very end of the adventure right before the boss. But I didn't do that because I thought the armor would be more important, and because I lost armor there, it's good that I was able to hold that up. So here we go, the Orc Cleaver's taking a bunch of attacks, and he's dealing all these counterattacks. So now, the Shield of Retribution was strong enough that I'm able to actually finish off this troll here with the 6 armor-piercing damage, so that's really good. Now I have a couple of options. What I'm going to do is move Gerald over here, and then just tank, or just kill this guy. Then of course I'm going to zap this guy. And now the Orc Cleaver, I'm going to have to do a little bit of risky play here. I'm going to have to move him up and then just tank an attack from the Troll Chieftain. That's because otherwise he could use his Ice Rain ability. And if he did that, it could kill the Arcane Wizard, and I don't want that to happen. By the way, if you notice that they're all missing 2 HP, that's from the bad luck that I got in one of those dice roll events. It's not from me taking HP damage. I'm not going to count bad RNG against this run if it's outside of a combat encounter. So if I just get like a bad event, then I'm not going to worry about it. Speaking of bad events, I had this happen. Now the Zapper is exhausted and everybody took 2 more damage, so that just stinks. But it's whatever, you know. One thing that I should also mention here, as I'm about to move to this next combat encounter, is that just like with summons, NPCs also don't count towards losing your flawless victory in a combat encounter. And so you see here we have the young barbarians. If these guys take any HP damage, it's not going to kill the run. If you look at the stats at the end of the adventure, it's actually going to say that I have 100% flawless encounters, even after seeing them take damage. And that's because it only applies to your actual, like, 3 to 4 party members. It doesn't have anything to do with any other units that you summon or just have as extra guys. And that's good in my opinion, because sometimes it's just unavoidable, and so you wouldn't want bad luck to ruin a run like this. Of course, bad luck still can ruin the run, but it's not going to ruin your counter for flawless victories. And so that's good for me. That means that I can just do this and I can have literal proof that I was able to get through all of these. So I'm really glad that Ironhide thought ahead and was able to pull this off and not let those things count. That way it doesn't look like I cheated or anything by showing the victory screen after the fact. Because I could like edit this, you know, but why would I do that? The point of a run like this is not really to prove anything. The point of it is that it's fun. The fact that I have like a YouTube channel, I can post videos and stuff of me playing the game, is just extra. I would be doing this anyways, you know, for my own amusement. It's just that now I get the added benefit of being able to publicly do it. So here we go. These guys will live for another day, and well, I'm pretty sure they're only gonna live for one other turn. After this, yeah, they're totally dead. So I've got all these buffed up units here. I've got the Shield of Retribution on the Orc, and the fact that he's got parry stance too, is making him even tougher. But you know, I can't really benefit from it because all the trolls are packed over here in the corner in the upper right. So instead, I'm just gonna have to deal damage with these barbarians here before they die. So let me just attack these guys. Now the troll's gonna kill him because he's got 1 HP. He would not be able to survive. This guy's going to break free of the ice and then immediately be stunned because he had his Berserk state active. So this guy's going to come up, and he's actually not going to be able to attack the Orc Cleaver. So he can't do anything yet. There we go. That guy dies. And then here comes the Ice Rain. So there we go. The Orc Cleaver, he's frozen, unfortunately. But check this out. You see the Troll Chieftain here? Or rather the thing that I was investigating when I was clicking on the Troll Breaker's HP was whether or not I could disintegrate him. I could make a really nice combo out of disintegrating him and then hitting him with the Zapper, but I also don't want to waste the opportunity to stun a unit, and so I'm just going to stun him with the Zapper there, and then I'm just going to keep the Orc Cleaver. I'm also going to just attack this guy because I have the chance to, and so these guys, they all have the opportunity to move up closer to the Orc Cleaver, but they can't attack him just yet. Only the Troll Chieftain is able to attack him. So here he comes. He's waddling on over, and now he's attacking him, and he's going to take counterattack damage. And now, you see, I can either disintegrate this guy or finish off the other troll, but I'm going to finish off that guy instead. Unfortunately, the Zapper is not in range to hit anybody, so I'm just going to have to spend a turn moving him up. Now I'm going to come up here, then activate his parry stance, and I'm also going to move Gerald up here and then apply the Shield of Retribution. The reason why I moved him up instead of just keeping him in the back... Oh, sorry, I'm not going to apply Shield of Retribution. But the reason I moved him up is so that way he can handle one of those two trolls. So that way the Orc Cleaver would be taking a little bit less damage. That way there was less chance of them piercing through his armor. And there you go. He was able to completely kill that one enemy because he was able to do 2 counterattacks to him in 1 turn. And then also counterattack the Troll Chieftain. And then I was able to finish him off with the weakest move possible. I think that just goes to show how powerful this party composition actually is. Gerald Lightseeker and the Orc Cleaver just have such amazing synergy with each other, thanks to that double damage reduction. When I first started doing this challenge, I was actually really concerned that this was going to be scary. Like every single combat encounter that I would walk into was going to leave me fearful that any wrong move was going to result in me losing the challenge and then I have to start over. But as it turns out, this challenge actually just turned into a lot of fun, showcasing powerful combos that you can pull off. Since I'm doing something that requires what I'm going to call perfection, even though technically I can still make mistakes in efficiency, it does require me to play a lot more efficiently than if I was not caring about the HP damage that I was taking. And so it forces me to be on my A game. And I really like challenges that cause that to happen. See, the thing is, I would be doing a challenge like this whether or not I could post it on YouTube. The nice thing about YouTube is that it gives you a place to post stuff that you already like. I don't think that it's wise for someone to be hurting themselves over YouTube, basically, which was something that I kind of did in the past because I really wanted to make the best videos possible that I could make. However, as it turns out, there's actually a really nice medium that you can strike here by just doing things that you already like and then putting in a little bit more work than you otherwise would to make it into something that's actually of video quality instead of just you doing it. Because obviously, I wouldn't be recording myself talking over the challenge like I am now, and that's something that I technically don't really enjoy that much, but it results in a better overall video, and so it's something that I'm fine with doing. But anyways, to get back to the actual challenge, the thing that I was trying to say before about showcasing the efficient heroes, this is also something that I find really satisfying. I think it's really cool to show off how powerful units can be when you're playing to your best ability with them. And this is something that comes up a lot when you're playing with Gerald and the Orc Cleaver. You need to constantly keep them in good positions so that way they can, stack their buffs together. I wanted to say buff each other, but the Orc Cleaver doesn't really buff Gerald. It's just that he receives the buff from Gerald, and Gerald just gives him the buff. So right there, I decided to use Gerald's basic attack, which does 8 damage, and the benefit for that is that, the thing is it doesn't actually deal 8 damage, it just has a chance of dealing 8 damage, whereas his other ability, his level 2 skill, it deals a static amount of damage, so there's no chance at all that it would have killed that troll. However, I decided to take the gamble, even though it doesn't really matter because I had those enemies, like I always say, in checkmate, since that's all that was left. Now this is going to be the last combat encounter that we run into for this adventure before we get to the boss. And so it's the double obelisk encounter. This one, I used to get it all the time. Now for some reason I get it very rarely, and instead I get, well, the other two options. But this time I went back to the classics and ended up getting this again. Now here's an instance where I really find myself wishing that I had the Arcane Wizard's damage increased by that encounter that we had earlier in the map. Instead, it went to Gerald, and so I don't really get that much benefit out of it since Gerald's not my main damage dealer. If it was on the Arcane Wizard, then what I could do is zap a troll and then instantly kill them with the attack, and so that would prevent the regeneration or the healing abilities of the obelisks from taking effect, since they can heal the trolls. If I just finish them off in a single attack, then I don't have to worry about that. Now I'm going to do something tricky here. I'm moving Gerald away from the Orc Cleaver and then applying the Shield of Retribution to him. This is so that Gerald isn't equally far away from the trolls as the Orc Cleaver, because if that's the case, then all of the trolls are just going to go and attack Gerald instead. And I don't want that. I want them attacking the Orc Cleaver. And as you can see here, because the Orc Cleaver is the one that's taking all the damage, he's able to deal all those counterattacks back and get rid of these trolls. And so this is really effective here. Now I have the opportunity to finish off one of them. I'm going to use his 1.2 ability, which does enough damage to one-shot them. So now the obelisks are guaranteed to use up their healing ability on this troll here. And so that's what's going to happen. He's going to get his healing, and now he's got 7 HP, which means I can comfortably defeat him using Gerald Lightseeker. And so that's what I'm going to do. So let me move him up and then attack. Yeah, there we go. 7 damage. Exactly. And now with the Arcane Wizard, once again, I wish that I was able to deal 8 damage because this obelisk has 8 HP. And unfortunately, the Arcane Wizard only does 7 damage. And so I'm just going to have to zap this other one that has less health so that way I can kill it. Now with the Orc Cleaver, I don't want to risk moving him up because what's going to happen is the Troll Breaker is going to be able to move down and then attack, and then he's going to deal damage to Gerald Lightseeker, and I don't want that to happen. So instead, this is what I'm going to do, and then Tentacles form, which causes the Troll Breaker to have to take an alternate path in order to get around to these heroes, and so that's what he ends up doing. Now the Arcane Wizard, I'm just going to try to blast this thing. I actually did a misinput there. I wanted to just use Disintegrate and destroy the obelisk, but instead I accidentally moved the Arcane Wizard forward, and so he was in a bad position, and the only thing that I could do that would do a good amount of damage would be using magic missiles, and so that's what I ended up doing. Now I can just move all these units down. I decided to move the Zapper all the way down, just so that way he would be that much closer to being able to attack the obelisk. I'm also going to take advantage of the fact that Gerald applies knockback to this enemy by moving him over here. This way, when he attacks the Orc Cleaver again, he's going to hit him from a certain angle that's not going to cause knockback to the Orc Cleaver. So instead, the Orc Cleaver is going to stay in position and be able to counterattack him. It doesn't actually matter because he finishes him off, but if he had more durability there, or if I just rolled a lower number with my attack, then that enemy would have stayed alive, and then he would have gotten counterattacked, and then definitely not stayed alive. So here we go. I finally get my redemption. I can apply damage buffs to these units, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to buff the Orc Cleaver first, because he's the one that can deal multiple attacks in a turn. I also get really unlucky with the tent here, but I always hold on to these exhaustion potions, so that way I can counteract any bad RNG that I get. Speaking of bad RNG, I have just enough experience points to be at, like, let's say 1.9 levels when I need 2 experience orbs in order to actually get to the next level and level up a character. So that was pretty unfortunate there, but that just adds on to the challenge, so it keeps it more entertaining. This boss fight in particular was a lot more entertaining, speaking of that. The thing with Olga Kai is that whenever I get to this boss fight, I've played so carefully during the beginning of the adventure that I can just turn my brain off and not have to worry about what I'm doing anymore. But this was kind of a return to the good old days when I was actually tryharding and sweating over all the different choices that I had to make in order to survive in this level. So it was really nice to go back to this and actually feel what it was like to just want to get the combat over with as quickly as possible. Because usually I would just toy around with Olga Kai and leave him alive for a while, so that way I would have a bunch of enemies to deal satisfying amounts of damage to, because they really do give you a good amount of opportunities to deal high amounts of damage here, especially if you get powerful moves like Disintegrate, which I do have, or things like Avenging Blade, which Gerald does not have because, like I said, we're not taking HP damage, so it's not going to be useful here. But you see all these enemies that have a huge amount of HP. The Troll Breaker, that guy is really hard to take down. But that just means that you can set up a situation where you deal a huge amount of damage, and it's even more satisfying because the Troll Breaker just does so much damage. Now, I want to point out here that it's really tempting to back up because there's so many enemies here that can deal armor ignoring damage. The one that just spawned here is called an Unblinded Exalted, and it has 2 movement and 4 range, which means it has an effective range of 6. So it's really hard to avoid getting hit by this thing. Not to mention, it actually deals a really good amount of damage too. Like, it can effectively one-shot the Dark Knight at level 1 if he was able to hit him, which is not good at all. It severely hampers the usefulness of the Dark Knight. But another thing that's tempting to do is use up this turn here to destroy the crystal, and that's what I end up doing. You see, this crystal here is going to get blasted by the area of effect that's caused by the Troll Breaker here. And so, I don't have to worry about spending a turn on destroying the crystal, and so instead, I can spend a turn, well, I can spend a turn doing whatever else I want. And so, what I ended up doing was buffing the Orc Cleaver with Parry Stance, so that way he would be able to counterattack and also survive without suffering that much HP damage. So now with the Zapper here, I'm going to take a bit of a gamble and move him in front of the Troll with the Shield of Retribution. This way, he can take an attack from him without suffering HP damage, and also move into range to destroy that other ranged enemy, so that way no magic damage is being dealt here. So what's going to happen is this thing is going to blast with its lasers, and the other crystal is not going to be in range to attack anything. You see, it's necessary to destroy 2 out of the 3 crystals and leave the other one, because this big tower that's not really a blazing gem, but I don't know what to call it, it will always shoot one of the gems and causes it to shoot out a horizontal beam that damages enemies. But the problem is that if you leave other crystals alive, then what happens is they can shoot any units that are in range as long as they're on your team. It won't shoot enemy units as far as I know, but it will shoot units that are on your team as long as they're within a range of 3, and that will deal damage. And so what I end up having to do is bank on the fact that the crystal that gets chosen is either out of range to hit any of my units, which was the case earlier in the previous round that caused me to start on this whole explanation, or just hope that I get lucky enough that the crystal chosen to shoot in a horizontal beam isn't one that can actually hurt any of my units. So over here, my units start to get kind of out of position. You see the Orc Cleaver and the Arcane Wizard are not really in that good of a position to destroy anybody. The bright side, on the bright side though, Gerald Lightseeker is. So I'm going to move him up here and then just keep him there to benefit from Fortify. Then I'm going to zap this enemy to get him out of the way. So now there's no sources of magic damage, and the new source of damage that's about to appear, which is Olga Kai, he's going to attack Gerald because Gerald's in the closest position to the spawn point for the boss, and so he can distract for us. The tricky thing though with Olga Kai is that he also has an ability that can teleport enemies to him, and so what can happen is he can actually one-shot a couple of units if they don't have a sufficient amount of HP. So for example, a low-level Witch Doctor or Arcane Wizard can just get instantly killed by Olga Kai if he happens to grab them. Alternatively, he can, just deal HP damage to units as long as they happen to either not have armor to resist it, or just have a low enough armor that they're not going to be able to withstand it. And so I can't take that risk at all here. So that's another reason that pushes me to want to get this boss fight over with as quickly as possible. So here we go, back to being tryhards again and making sure that we make every choice as efficiently as we can. So luckily here, I'm in a spot where I can just whack this crystal, so that's what I'm going to do. It does 3 damage to Olga Kai. I'm going to blast him with Disintegrate, because that does a huge amount of damage. And then I also have Gerald's AoE, which is going to damage the boss and the crystal, but the damage directly to the boss was all that was needed. In fact, Disintegrate does 13 damage, and Gerald's AoE does 7 damage thanks to his damage boost, and so that alone is enough to deal 20 damage, which is as much as any boss in this game can have. And so that already is enough for me to wipe him out. So that was a nice little combo there, but as you can see, I didn't toy around with Olga Kai at all. I just wanted to spawn kill him. Sometimes I will spawn kill him for fun, because I just like seeing that much damage in a single round. Here though, I felt like I needed to, because I just didn't want to take any risks. So as you can see here, I have 11 combat encounters survived and 11 flawless encounters. So that's proof that your NPCs that show up alongside your main party, they can take HP damage without counting against you or your flawless encounters. So it's finally time to move on to Extradimensional Menace. I've actually decided to do something extremely dangerous here. You see, I have Azra, the Ranger, and the Arcane Wizard. That means that none of my units are melee units. In fact, none of my units are even tanks in any way. They're all glass cannons. Since I'm not going to be taking any damage to my HP, it doesn't really matter how frail they are. But the thing is, without any consistently high enough armor, I'm not able to tank any melee attacks from any units. And so I have to be able to wipe out everything before it even gets a chance to attack me. This is super scary, but it's the only way that I know how to effectively get through Extradimensional Menace without having to do a bunch of retries to beat it. Because otherwise, I'm going to have melee companions like the Knight just running into range of flare-ons without me being able to do anything about it. Whereas here, I can keep all of my units out of range and, just be nice and fine and dandy. So here we have the first combat encounter. I can't afford to move the Ranger up to shoot at this skeleton here, because there's a pretty high chance that he's going to deal less than 5 damage and keep him alive, and so I don't want to take that risk. Here though, I can afford to use Onyx Arrows. This will take out this Skeleton Knight here just fine. The Arcane Wizard here, I can afford to blast any of these enemies, but instead I'm going to move him out of range so that way he can snipe this skeleton. As you can see there, he did his maximum damage. This skeleton here, I can deal enough damage to one-shot him no matter how low I roll with the Ranger, since I now have Keen Focus. And now the skeletons are starting to reform, and you can see that they're pushing everybody back. Like, I have to keep on moving all of my units back so that way they're not in range of getting hit by these skeletons here. But the problem is that if I don't kill them in time, they're going to reform, and then I have to deal with it. So now I need to go and shoot one of the enemies that's close enough to hitting us so that we don't have to worry about it. I also have to pay a lot of attention to the queue here, because I need to attack the ones that are going to get their turns next and attack them before they get the chance to come and attack anyone. So here we go. I definitely have to use Azra to attack this skeleton here that has 1 HP, because his turn is coming up next. And so I'm just going to move her into a position where she can destroy him. Now, as you can see, the Ranger and the Arcane Wizard are able to finish off the 2 skeletons that are right in front of their faces. So that's good. I'm actually able to handle this situation. So I'm just going to move him back, shoot this guy, he's going to blow up. Now these other skeletons are going to start reforming, and they're going to start pursuing again. And so now it's urgent for me to be able to wipe these guys out before they can hurt us, because otherwise I'm going to get easily overwhelmed. So here we go with the Arcane Wizard. He's just going to zap the skeleton, finish him off, and now all I have left is this guy. So I'm just going to shoot him with a basic arrow, because I know I can't kill him with poison arrow anyways. So I'm just going to let him get close and then have Azra finish him off. So let's overkill him with Onyx Arrows just to stick it to him. And there we go. We managed to finish off our first combat encounter without taking any HP damage. But man, was that stressful. And this is the sort of stuff that I was fearing from the beginning. It just took me getting all the way to the last and hardest level for it to actually kick in. So I also have to hope that I get good RNG here, because if I get exhausted with any of my units, it's over. I cannot afford to let that happen, because if a unit's exhausted, my number of options for shooting enemies and then falling back just gets limited too severely. So now that I have XP, the first thing that I'm going to do is purchase the Verdant Defender upgrade. Now I actually do have a tank that can help me out. And I also get pretty lucky here. I get the Witch Doctor. Now, that might seem kind of unlucky, because why would I need a healer if I'm going to be not taking any HP damage with my units? However, the other benefit of the Witch Doctor is that he's a sniper on top of being a healer. He actually gets the highest range out of any units in the game. And so it's useful to have him around, so that way you can shoot enemies before they get in range to attack you. So having him around is going to be really useful here. The unfortunate thing though is that he does not have good range until you actually level him up a lot. And I don't want to do that, because I want to reserve my XP for my other units. You see, I picked the Ranger and Arcane Wizard on purpose because both of them have level 2 skills that are useful for stopping the enemies. Frostlance is an AoE freeze, and so this is going to allow me to block a bunch of enemies, whereas the Verdant Defender is just a really versatile way of stopping the enemies from attacking. So as you can see here, the Ranger already has enough range that he can shoot an enemy and then benefit from agility afterwards. However, it's also useful for me to shoot at this mage enemy here, because I want to get him out of the way as quickly as possible. That way he's not able to shoot at any of my units either. So now, as you can see, I've got a bit of a tricky situation here. If I zap this enemy here, then I do have a good chance of being able to do enough damage to finish him off, but I actually don't end up doing that. And so now what I have to do is rely on the Witch Doctor to finish off one of these guys. But he doesn't actually deal enough damage to finish him off. So instead he's at 1 HP, and this is going to turn him into a tentacle. But even though he's turned into a tentacle, he's still kind of a threat, just not enough that he's going to be able to hurt any of my units. So here's the really tricky thing. I'm going to benefit from the fact that the Ranger has Invigoration and move him back after summoning the Verdant Defender, but I'm going to use the Verdant Defender to take out this enemy over here, so now I don't have to worry about him. And instead, I can worry about just about anything else. So I'm going to move the Arcane Wizard over, so that way he can use Frostlance on the Abomination. That way, the Abomination isn't able to attack anybody. It's also tempting to just shoot him with the beam, and that is what I end up doing after all, because that's just going to be enough to finish him off, and that's helpful in its own way. So I'm just going to use Azra's ability on him, and you see the rooted symbol there? Because we saw that, that means that he got hit by the final attack of her ability. So that means that it actually took all 3 of the arrows of that high damage ability on top of the Arcane Wizard's beam in order to actually finish him off. So here I get really good RNG. That's like a 1 in 9 chance of happening. And so the fact that the Verdant Defender is actually still alive here is a miracle. But I'll take it. I'll take any miracles that I can get, because that's what I'm going to need in order to survive this. So there I get really lucky again. That's also a 1 in 3 chance. So in total, this is a 1 in 27 chance to have happen. But I'm able to finish off all of these guys. And Azra, if I move her up, she's not going to be in range to attack this mage here. And so I'm not going to move her at all. Instead, I'm just going to wait with her and let that guy use up his turn, so that way I can just finish him off on the next turn, because I'm going to get that opportunity thanks to the Ranger. So here he goes. He's going to use up his turn shooting the Verdant Defender, or sorry, the Wolf Ent, my bad. And now I can just move up with the Ranger and then shoot this guy down. So that honestly would not have been possible if I didn't have Invigoration from beforehand. So that was definitely thanks to the RNG of the map. And this is what I mean about a lot of these challenges having so much RNG that you'd have to just restart sometimes, because you just get locked into an unavoidable situation. That's also why I'm not counting any of the HP damage taken from dice roll events, but you already know that. So now I have enough XP to level up again, or I can wait and get to a level 2 with a unit. And that is really tempting, because level 3 on the Arcane Wizard is awesome, But I'm going to level up Azra so that way she gets more range and access to the Shiv skill, which is a very high damage physical attack capable of one-shotting a lot of enemies, and it also only has a 2-turn cooldown. This is huge. Having a 2-turn cooldown means that you can have a nice little pattern of shooting an enemy, or sorry, not shooting, but stabbing an enemy with Shiv, and then waiting a turn with Keen Focus to build that up and get more damage with Shiv on the following turn, and then, using it on the following turn. So this combo is really, really good if you can keep on kiting around enemies and avoiding them. It stacks well with any unit that can stun another unit. So for example, if you have the Knight, she can stun the enemy that you're spamming Shiv against, and that will prevent that enemy from fighting back when Azra's in melee range with Shiv. A lot of Azra's other level 2 options are not really that good in my opinion. The problem with them is that you have to get into melee range, and so you don't want to put Azra at risk here. The problem though is that Azra being in melee range means that she can get hit by other enemies, and so if you can finish them off with Shiv, that's great. That means that you got really good you got put into a really good position to use it up. But her other ones, they don't really have that same sort of killing potential. Instead, the damage that they deal is just enough to leave the enemy alive, but with a status effect. So imagine what that's like when the status effect that they receive is just poison. So that enemy is completely free to act afterwards. It's just that they are going to take damage over time. But this is really bad. You don't want them taking damage over time because they're still going to get a free turn to act afterwards, and so they can hit Azra. Her third option for a level 2 skill, that one causes stun, and it allows her to use her remaining movement afterwards. That one's also good, but why stun an enemy when you can just outright kill them? And so that's what I like the most about that ability, about Shiv, I mean, is that it just outclasses all of the other options. So now what I'm going to do is use the Arcane Wizard to kill one of these skeleton champions, because he can actually pierce their armor, so it's worth it to use him there. Same thing for this guy, the Witch Doctor. He can also pierce the armor of these skeletons, and so that's what I want to do here. Between these options, I'm just going to shoot this guy so that way I can move up with the Ranger, and then going to attack this skeleton so that way I can finish him off with the Wolf End. And now I'm going to take this opportunity to actually use Shiv on the enemy, just for the sake of flexing on him. So there we go, we got an extra epic effect when I could have just finished him off with a normal shot, but why do that when you can Shiv him? So there we go, we did that. We got some more supplies that are not going to come in handy because we're not going to be taking any damage, but whatever. Now look at these two paths here. If you were given these options, which one would you choose? Here, I get the opportunity to sell the mask or exchange it for XP, and I'm not doing that. The mask is really useful at the end of the adventure for getting a bunch of stat boosts to your characters. And if you get super lucky, you can get an HP boost for the Arcane Wizard. Now if that happens, it's going to increase the damage of Disintegrate. For some reason, I don't know why, but Disintegrate actually scales with his max HP rather than his attack stat. So when the Arcane Wizard gets a boost to his a boost to his HP, it's going to take that HP value and multiply it by 2.5. And so if his HP is boosted, it's going to be a higher number when multiplied by 2.5. And so he's going to deal more damage with his Disintegrate. So here I have a chance to buff a hero with a Warm Handshake. And so I don't want to do it to the Arcane Wizard. This is exactly what I was just talking about, where he's going to lose HP for the sake of gaining damage. So he can only stand to lose ultimately, because I really want a powerful Disintegrate. That to me is worth more than gaining his basic attack, and so I decided to do it with Azra. Unfortunately here, I'm not able to use the tavern at all, so I'm just stuck with the party that I've got. Not that it matters though, because like I said, I got the Witch Doctor, and that's really helpful here. So I don't want to get rid of him anyways. Although there are other party members that are useful to get here. For example, if I got the Sylvan Elf, that would be really nice. So there we go, I just purchased Disintegrate, and I'm also going to purchase an ability for Azra. Honestly, between all of the options that I've got for Azra at level 3, none of them really matter all that much. However, the main benefit to getting Azra to level 3 is that she gains a boost to her attack damage, and that's what I really want, because her attack goes from dealing 4 to 6 to dealing 6 to 8 damage, and 6 to 8 damage is perfect for being able to hit new HP breakpoints, and so that's going to be effective for one-shotting a lot of guys. So here we just have some bad RNG, not that it really matters because I have the means to remedy that. As you can see here, I'm not doing anything to cure that just yet, because there's a chance that I'm going to get even more bad RNG at another one of these dice roll events, and so I don't want to use that up. The good thing about these potions, or what are they called, elixirs of life, is that I can use them to not only cure exhaustion, but also crippling wounds and any other missing HP that I've got on my party. And so this is really handy to me. It actually would have been able to counteract the lost max HP that would have happened to the Arcane Wizard, but I didn't want to take that risk because the thing is, there are some events that can give you a boost to your max HP, and this can happen to send you over the amount. And the thing is, they replace crippling wounds. So let's say that your Arcane Wizard is at 4 HP because he has a crippling wound, but then you insert the mask and he gains +1 to his max HP. The crippling wound goes away and he goes back to having 5 HP, but you can't use a bandage to cure crippling wounds to set it all the way up to 6. It just counteracts the crippling wound. So unfortunately, it doesn't do anything all that useful, and so I don't want to waste it on that. So here I'm just gonna poison this enemy here, or actually, well, the thing is that there's a couple of benefits to poisoning him versus dealing physical damage. If I deal physical damage to him, there's a chance that I deal more than I could with my poison, and so at least I'll be removing some armor so that he takes more damage when Azra attacks him. But that doesn't really matter here, because Azra's going to deal enough damage to take care of him anyways. In fact, she doesn't even need to be the one dealing the damage, because the Arcane Wizard can come over here and then deal a whopping 8 damage to this guy and just finish him off. So as you can see, this all-ranged party is already becoming really strong now that I'm leveling all of them up and gaining more range on my attacks. So this is allowing me to finish off all of the enemies before they ever even get close enough to attack me. Even if they were able to get close enough because I wasn't dealing enough damage per round, it would be fine, because as you saw at the beginning of the adventure, all I would have to do is fall back and keep on shooting at the enemies. And so this is fine. Now this combat encounter here is, in my opinion, one of the hardest in the entire game. Just in general, when you're trying not to take HP damage. Of course, if you have someone like Bravebark, you can just turn your brain off and not worry about the damage that you take. But here, I really can't afford that, because the only unit that's capable of any form of tanking is the Ranger. And I guess Azra as well. That's why I gave her some buffs to her armor stat. But even then, they're not going to be able to tank effectively against these big hulking enemies like these abominations here. And so I'm not dealing with that. I'm not taking that risk. So instead, I'm just going to have to engage in a battle of attrition and try to handle what happens when all these enemies start pursuing me. So what I can do is kill the 3 acolytes that are in the back, and then I can start giving myself space to fight all these enemies. However, I'm not going to kill that one acolyte that's still alive on the left there, because I know they can finish him off with an attack from my what's his name called? The Witch Doctor. Sorry, the tricky thing about the Witch Doctor is that he has the appearance of a spirit shaman from Kingdom Rush Frontiers, and so that always throws me off, because, you know, it doesn't look like that should be his name. So there you can see me counting the nodes here, because I'm trying to figure out a good position to use Frostlance. So here, if I use Frostlance, I'm actually able to hit these enemies without them getting in range of being hit by, or without my Arcane Wizard being hit by any of the other enemies nearby. So as you can see here, this guy's getting close. Doesn't really matter. I can deal with him. There's still 2 more of these acolytes here, so I have to finish them off. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to use the bonus damage on Precise Shot to kill this guy. And so what I'm going to have to do is I'm just gonna have to shoot this Acolyte here instead. But that's fine. That's all that I really need to do. So here we go. I'm going to finish off this guy using this really high damage attack, and then with the Arcane Wizard on his next turn, he's going to be able to finish off the Acolyte. So all I have to do is bring him back, because his base attack doesn't deal enough damage when it's too close to the enemy to actually finish them off. So there you go. It dealt reduced damage, but it's fine because it was still enough to kill him, because the Arcane Wizard just does that much damage. So here now, I'm just going to shoot at this Abomination here. The thing that I was talking about before, where I can deal physical damage to him, this is where it starts to pay off, because I can shoot him with another physical damage attack, and it makes his armor regeneration pointless. So here you can see that I can just use magic missiles to snipe at these guys, and there you go, that was enough to finish them off. And now I can finish off this guy too by shooting him with the Witch Doctor there. Any combination of damage that could have done would have been fine. I would have been able to manage that, and so that's why I was able to confidently do that. But generally that would have been a risky move. So here, once again, I get lucky with the map. I can just easily avoid the Demon Lord encounters, and so that's what I do. Now I have the opportunity to spend some more gold at this armor smith here, so I'm just going to upgrade the armor of the Ranger here. This way, when he gets to level 3, he's actually able to tank up to 4 physical damage. And here you can see the benefit of having all range companions. I can actually shoot something down with 4 different dice at once, so that's nice to see. Now here we come to the moment of truth. I'm going to come up to this first and insert the mask, because if somebody gets exhaustion, then I can worry about that as it comes up. Luckily that doesn't happen though, so I just use the tent. Nothing special happens, which is also fine. Unfortunately though, I don't have enough experience to level up the Witch Doctor to max level, and the Arcane, or not the Arcane, but the Ranger to max level as well. But since he's invigorated, it makes it a lot more appealing to get him up to max level instead. And so, you know, the other abilities that I have as options for the Witch Doctor at level 3, they're just not worth it to me. They're all healing based abilities. Although the totem can at least cause a bit of a distraction if an enemy attacks it, it's not going to be useful here against the boss. And so instead what I want to do is just level up the Ranger, get Ricochet Arrow, so that way it can deal with multiple tentacles and or blobs at the same time, and move the Ranger at the same time since he's invigorated. So now, here it comes, the final stare down. I'm going to heal the crippling wound on Azra, just because it can, but it ultimately doesn't matter, because I'm not trying to take HP damage in the first place. So here I skipped ahead because there's a bit of a long loading screen here, but the thing with this fight is that there's so much RNG that I can't afford to not cheat a little bit and use that that trick where you can hold down the heart icon with the question mark on the top left in order to see which one is the real Irisa. I think that it would just cause too much restarting of the run in order to do that. I don't know if I would actually restart the entire adventure just because of me taking HP damage, but it's something that I would consider, just because you got to stay true to the run, you know? That's also a reason why I believe people would believe me when I say that I'm not cheating. And, well, actually, I can't say that's the reason why, because I just thought it in my head. But the reason why is because of what I was saying before, when I was talking about how I would be doing a run like this, even if, you know, I wasn't recording it for YouTube or anything, I would just be doing it for the sake of it. And so, because I'm just having fun here, it's fine for me to set whatever rules I want for myself, and I would be setting rules like this where I would have to restart the entire adventure if I took HP damage. Not the entire run though, like I wouldn't have to go back to Krumpex Dominion for taking HP damage. That would be ridiculous. But I know that people who have tried to do runs of games like the entire Dark Souls series, they will actually restart from the very beginning to try to hit or to try to get through the game without taking any hits. That's pretty crazy to me. But anyways, let's focus on Irisa here. So the tricky thing about Irisa is that I need to be able to defeat her in her first phase with a unit that's not near any of the other units. And the reason why is because when she moves on to her next phase, she's going to position her spawn where she can hit the most enemies. Well, her enemies. And so because all of my units were positioned there in the middle and grouped up, obviously she's going to prioritize going over there. And so I used the Witch Doctor all the way at the bottom of the screen there, so that way he could snipe her with his attack and cause Irisa to want to spawn near all of these other guys. And sure enough, that's what she does. And so I actually have the opportunity to move out of the way with all of my units when it comes to their turn. That way they don't get hit. If I don't do that, then the unit's going to already have their turn, and they're going to get hit by Irisa in the next turn. And that's where it gets the hardest to complete this without taking any HP damage. So now I really have to move the Witch Doctor, because otherwise he's going to get slammed by the big tentacle. Now for the Ranger, I can't really use Ricochet Arrow because it's going to hit... well, I can hit the tentacles, but it runs the risk of hitting Irisa too, and so I don't want to do that. So instead, I just have to get out of there. And so I just shoot that one tentacle there at the bottom and leave it at that. I'm going to shoot this tentacle too. The Verdant Defender, the Wolf Ant, is going to despawn, so it doesn't matter. Now I have the opportunity to use Shiv here. And this is where the next big RNG problem comes in. You see, Irisa can spawn anywhere she wants. But luckily for me, she decided to spawn in this really weird position here, where she doesn't hit anybody. I don't know what's up with that, like what the logic is, but the thing is, I was prepared to protect my units using the Arcane Wizard. You see, the Arcane Wizard's Frost Lance actually has Friendly Fire, and the Friendly Fire doesn't deal any HP damage to your units, but it freezes them. And so if you freeze your units in the ice, they don't take any damage because it's Friendly Fire, but they also won't take any damage from the next hit that they receive from an enemy. And so if my units were in a position where they would get hit by Irisa's, her explosive trail thingy, I don't know what this attack is called, but if they were in position to get hit by that, I could just freeze them and they would be safe for another turn. So right here, I'm not in that good of a position to attack Irisa. And so instead, what I'm going to do... Well, I'm not in a good position to attack her with Shiv because I just used it, so it's not cooled down yet. And at the same time, it's also not... what's the word? It's not... Well, Azra is not positioned right so that she can actually deal with Irisa. Otherwise, it would just deal armor damage. You need to be behind the boss in order to deal epic physical damage. And so, there was no way that I could have used that skill, even if it was finished cooling off. So now I don't actually have to worry about this fight anymore because I've actually already put the boss in checkmate. So if you notice, the Arcane Wizard is just barely in range to hit the boss on his next turn. And like I've been talking about before and hyping up, he has Disintegrate, which is one of the highest damage attacks in the game. And so because Irisa's already taken 9 damage thanks to Azra's arrow, and since Azra dealt, what was it? She gained bonus to her attack damage thanks to the Unblinded Gift that I chose, or the Warm Handshake that I chose at the very start of this run. She deals 7 to 9 damage. And 7 to 9 means 7 at least. And 7 at least is just enough to leave Irisa with 13 HP left. And because she has 13 HP left, that means that Disintegrate is guaranteed to finish her off as long as the Arcane Wizard doesn't have any loss to his HP. So there we go. I finished her off. I set the enemy up in checkmate, and I took account of all of the possible ways that I could have taken HP damage in this fight, and prepared accordingly. I didn't even need to use the Frost Lance trick that I was talking about. That trick, by the way, only works if you're going to finish off the boss in the very next turn. And that's pretty much impossible anyways, so it's really risky. The reason it doesn't truly work is because your units are going to be on fire platforms, and so they're going to get lit on fire and then take HP damage afterwards. So you have to have some sort of special plan for that. But anyways, there we go. I was able to beat the entirety of Legends of Kingdom Rush without taking any HP damage to my units. Of course, I did take some HP damage to some other types of units, but the game doesn't count them, and I wouldn't have counted them anyways. There we go. I get the nice screenshot of Azra, the Knight, and Bruxa, so I'm going to take my reward and just keep it in my camera roll there. I'm also going to just explain right now that this game is honestly close to being my favorite Ironhide game. It's just that because it came out recently, I don't want to just form a really strong opinion like that on it. However, the more and more I keep on replaying it, the more and more quality that I see in everything about it. And I like it just as much as Kingdom Rush 1 and Kingdom Rush Frontiers, which are my other two favorite Kingdom Rush games. So, I highly recommend that you get into this game and try out these kinds of challenges, because they really are rewarding. I don't plan on doing that many other challenges with this game. I've already done a flawless run of Wild Moon, and so if you want to see me truly beat the entirety of the game without taking HP damage, you can watch that video as well. And I just wanted to scroll down and show off the beta testers. I'm amongst them inside of this little sword that they formed with the names here. You can try to figure out which one I am in case you don't know already. But yeah, that's about it. I hope that this was an enjoyable video for you. I'd be surprised if someone actually managed to watch through the entire video in one sitting, especially with all my umming and not knowing what I'm talking about. Kind of difficult to have 100 minutes of conversation to just talk nonstop about, but you know, that's just how it goes. So, hope this was entertaining. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.